Great.
So I'm here with Ms. Yakova, and we're going to talk about the mini storage business. And this is a recording that's going to be on YouTube. It's unlisted, so don't post it anywhere, okay? And share it with your brother or share it with any other experts that you need to share it with. But it's just confidential between us, okay?
Okay,
All
great.
right, so that's great. So I'll tell you another story. You know, I like telling stories. And uh, about 30 years ago now, a little bit over 30 years ago, I was at an inflection point in my career. I'd been a real estate developer for quite a number of years at that point. We built some housing, subdivisions, office buildings, shopping centers, what have you. And I called up two of my key guys, Cyril Leader, who is still the president of the Ottawa Senators today, and Randy Sexton, who's still involved in the National Hockey League. And I said, I have two choices for our company. There are two directions I think we can take our company. They asked me, what is the first direction? And I said, I think, you got to remember, this is 30 years ago. I think that the mini storage business is about to explode. Houses are getting smaller, you know, more people are buying townhouses and condos, and everybody has too much stuff. So I said, we can go into the mini storage business. I think it'll be huge, and we can be leaders in that industry. They said, well, that's really interesting, Bruce. What's the other thing? I said, well, the other thing is we could buy 600 acres of land in the west end of Ottawa, bid for a National Hockey League expansion franchise, which is obviously the Ottawa Senators, build an arena in the middle of the 600 acres, put the expansion franchise in there. We need about 100 acres for the building and the parking lot. We'll have an extra 500 acres left over, and presumably the value of that land will go up. So what we did, Zaeira, was we bought 600 acres of land in Canada, West Carleton, Stittsville, Palladium
Mhm.
Drive, and we paid $7.2 million for 600 acres of land, okay, which is about $12,000 an acre. Today it sells for about 1.1 or 1.2 million an acre. So it's gone from
Oh,
12,000 an acre to 1
wow.
1.1 or 1.2 million. So it's gone from about $7.2 million in value, the 600 acres, to probably about $800 million in value. Okay. So we were young guys back then. You know, I was 30 years younger, and Cyril, obviously, and Randy were 30 years younger. So we decided to go in that direction. All right. So we established a National Hockey League team in Ottawa. We built the building, and of course, we sold off the extra acreage and made excuse my language, but a shit ton of money. Uh,
Hockey stick growth. No
uh,
pun intended.
yeah, exactly. So that was a success of some sort. But on the
Mhm.
other hand, had we gone into the mini storage business, and this is really for you and your brother, we probably would have made even more money. All
Okay.
right. Like public storage is I'm a realtor, as you know, as well as a coach. Public Storage Canada is one of my clients, and I help them find sites to purchase for mini storage across Canada. And, you know, I don't know what they're trading for now, but the last time I checked, it was over $2 billion. So maybe financially we should have gone into the mini storage business in Canada, the United States, and maybe built a $10 billion corporation, but we were young guys, NHL expansion team, and a new arena. That sounded more exciting.
That's
So,
right.
so if you had been with us 30 years ago, because you're such a numbers-driven person, you probably would have said, hold on a second, you guys. Maybe the mini storage business is better. All right. So, but of course, then you would be in your 60s now instead of your 30s. So there you go. So I'm going to share my screen with you and
Perfect.
I'll just show you some slides. And I want to share with you, and through you, I would like to share with your brother. I know a lot about the mini storage business.
Okay.
Okay. And if you and your brother need any help with it, any coaching with it, I mean, obviously as a realtor, I'm representing Mary Greer and Gary Greer. You're representing your brother, so there's obviously your brother will get all the advice from you, none from me. But after the transaction, if there is a transaction is completed, if you needed any assistance, I would be happy to do that. I would ask Mary and Gary Greer's permission, but that would be after any transaction is completed.
Thank
Okay?
you.
All right, so there's no conflict of interest. And what we're talking about is ProLock. I've been advising Mary and Gary for at least 10 years. And I know your brother bought their house in Franktown.
Yes, he bought their house in Franktown,
Yeah.
converted to commercial, and
Yeah.
with the
Very
allowing
cool.
the residential, it's incredible. It's
He's
been
done
wonderful.
a
Yeah.
great job. And by the way, Mary speaks very highly of your brother.
Thank you. Yeah, and they've come to visit it. He speaks very highly of them as well. They've
Oh,
been
that's nice. I'm
wonderful.
glad to hear that. So you know the site, I'm sure.
Yeah, I haven't driven it yet with my brother,
Okay.
but we're going to be taking a drive to it this
All
week.
right. Well, you're going to have if your brother has time, he can look at this YouTube video. On YouTube, you can speed it up to 2 times, 2x, so he can, it's like a time-lapse video. So Gary Greer is a bit of an artist, and you can see the gate on the top left. He's created all this artwork. I mean, he's an older fella, and he just likes doing stuff, just like you like learning new stuff. He's a bit of an artist, so he's created something. And then they have, I think, about 135 of these sea cans. You know what sea cans are, right?
Yes, the containers.
They're called sea containers, but call them sea cans. You could buy them for about $3,500 from Montreal. These are used sea cans. And then you can see on the inside, on the right-hand side, they convert them to storage. Because storage, you wouldn't want to put storage into just a sea can. You want to make sure that you've got some fit up, which you can see on the right-hand side. So that's a typical sea can that Gary would buy them for about $3,500, and then he would fit them up for probably another $2,000. This is the site itself. This is Highway 15. If you go north, can you see my cursor moving?
Yes.
If you go north, it's Carlton Place, about 15 minutes to the north of this site. If you go south, it's Smith Falls, 3 or 4 minutes away. So it's kind of bookended by Carlton Place and Smith Falls. And Smith Falls, believe it or not, is becoming a suburb of Ottawa.
That's right. Yeah.
And the total area here, you can see in blue here, it excludes this property here and a house here. This is a commercial property. This is a house here. It's got frontage on Highway 15. It's got frontage, obviously, on Sturgis here. And it's about 42 or 43 acres in total. Okay?
Okay, perfect.
It has a paved road here and a turning circle here. And that paved road is a very good road. It's not full of potholes, at least not time I drove it last fall. And so it's a good access road. Gary is a good builder. He's a crusty old guy. I love him. But he's a good builder. So he put this road in here. And then, of course, on either side of the road, you're going to see these sea containers. All right? This is an old survey, and one of the possibilities if your brother bought this property, Zaeira, is you've got the road. You can see the road here and the turning circle here. One of the possibilities, if he wanted to, is he could create blocks and sell them off, right? Because, you don't really need 42 acres for mini storage. You might keep 8 acres for mini storage. You might keep 10 acres for mini storage, but you're probably not going to keep 42 acres. So there would be, if I bought this, I would probably buy it. I would, obviously keep 8 or 10 acres for mini storage, and I might create some additional lots and sell them off. And that's how you typically pay down the purchase price.
And these are residential, these would be residential.
No. These are commercial. This is all industrial.
Okay, so because I saw the survey from an old listing that we were going through, and that's what I was curious about is whatever happened with that, if it moved forward, but it's a possibility.
Well, no, I don't think so. Not without a zoning change, and I would strongly recommend that you don't do that. There is demand. It's very difficult for entrepreneurs, and since you're a commercial agent now and you like commercial, there is demand for 2 acre blocks for people who, I don't know, maybe you run a towing company, right? And you need a couple of acres where you can park your tow trucks, and you can also have an impound lot, if you know what that is.
Yes, when you impound vehicles and you have them
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
little, yeah.
exactly. You park in the wrong place long enough, somebody will come and tow your car and go to an impound lot, and then you got to go there and you got to pay them a lot of money to get it out. All right.
Okay.
So
So
these would,
it can be severed into lots, just
yes, yeah,
with the zoning that it's in now.
exactly. And I'll show you the zoning in a minute.
Perfect.
So these are just more pictures I took, and you can see here's the road. You can see these mini or sea cans, which is mini storage. It's actually quite a beautiful site. You know, Smith Falls, Carleton Place, Ottawa is a paradise for 6 months, and then it's just a war with winter, right? So these pictures obviously were taken, I think, in June of last year. And this is just from their website. They do have a website. I think if your brother bought this company, he might redo the website. You know, I love Mary Greer and Gary Greer, but you know, they're not exactly you know, up to date with you know, the most recent web applications. But anyway, they do have a site called prologstorage.ca, and this is just a screenshot from there. Okay.
Perfect.
Um, then this in 2020 was sort of their site plan idea. This is what Gary was wanted to do, is he wanted to go all up and down the street with all of these little tiny rectangles here are you know, sea cans stored, so the entire road would be covered with these things. And then he wanted to create an RV recreational vehicle gravel parking lot here, and he wanted to do you know, another severance over here, or a part lot control, create 5 acres that he could sell off, right? So he had a number of ideas, but I'm not saying they were the best ideas, but these were his ideas, and I just put them into this slide deck just to give you and your brother a sense of what was in Gary's mind. Okay.
Thank you.
You and your brother would have to come up with your own plan, and frankly, your own plan might be a little, nothing wrong with this, but I think it could be improved. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And then this was just another drawing. This is Gary just drawing what he was thinking. I'll go back one slide. He was thinking of creating another severance right on the corner here, and creating a commercial parcel right here of about 5 acres, which would be a great spot for a small plaza.
That's right, especially with that location there on Sturgis and Highway
Well,
15.
Highway 15 is pretty friggin' busy, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
I don't know what the vehicle count is, but I think it's slightly above 15,000 vehicles a day. And I have built 10,000 square foot or 12,000 square foot small retail plazas on roads that have as little traffic as 7,500 vehicles a day. So I think if there was a retail plaza on the corner here, I think it would do quite well. I built one in Dunrobin, which only had 7,500 vehicles a day, and it was very successful. A small plaza. That plaza had a lickbo, if you know what that is.
Like a liquor.
Yeah, liquor control board. My youngest son calls it, the slang word is lickbo, LCBO.
Oh, that's
Young
right.
people call it lickbo. That's all I know. All right, so
Okay.
it had a liquor control board in it, had a beer store in it, had a pizza place in it. By the way, the pizza place had a volleyball court next door, because there was
Okay.
the theory was people who play volleyball will drink more beer and eat more pizza. It had a grocery store, it had a chiropractor. I mean, it was a really cool little plaza. And today, if I were doing it again, instead of having a volleyball court, I would have pickleball.
Okay.
So that's what Gary had in mind, and he drew up this little sketch of what you know, he might do, and this would be, I think, a good spot for a retail plaza. You remember I pointed out on his site plan that he planned to have a place to park RVs and boats and trucks and equipment. Uh,
That's
this
right.
is
Yeah.
this
That
is
little
what
part there. Yeah.
this is what one of my clients does in he has a number of sites. This one I think is in Alberta. Yes, some in British Columbia as well. But the way to design these parking lots is a little bit different than what Gary had. You do them on the diagonal. If you think about it, if you have an RV, it's a lot easier to do this than to do this.
That's right.
All right. Okay. So I just wanted to show you and your brother, and by the way, this is one of the single most profitable uses you can put a piece of land to. All right. Have you got a calculator there? Since you like numbers, I'll give you some numbers. Grab your calculator.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So you can get about 80 RVs, trucks, buses, boats on an acre of outdoor storage. You get about 80 of them, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but 80 is a good number. And typically you charge $125 per vehicle per month. So multiply 80 times 125. What do you get?
$10,000.
Oh, that was pretty easy. And multiply that by 12.
$120,000.
$120,000 in gross income from an acre of land.
And are they parked there every month out of the year?
That's a really good answer.
They just be parked there when they're not using them?
That's a really good question. Boy, you're sharp.
Yeah,
I don't think there's much I can. I understand the question. I'm just marveling that you asked the question. That was really good. I'll explain that to you. So it's $120,000 gross. I take off from gross income 34%. So if you multiply 120,000 by 0.66, what do you get?
79,020. Right. So it's like a vacancy.
So the 34% is called OPEX, operating expenses. So that includes property taxes. It includes repairs and maintenance. It includes vacancy allowance. It includes insurance, your marketing, your property management, all these things that you have to pay. Nothing to do with a mortgage, right? It's just operating expenses. Some of these guys who operate these, their OPEX is much less than 34%, but it won't be more than that. So that's a conservative number. So what did you get?
79,200.
Right. Was that a month or a year?
A year.
A year. Okay. It costs about, to strip the soil, topsoil off and gravel, it costs about $50,000 an acre. Okay. So you know what a cap rate is, right?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So if your net operating income is
79,200,
and your marginal cost of creating that is, say, $50,000, your cap rate is over 100%.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if you and I and your brother bought a townhouse in Toronto, we'd be lucky to get a 3.5% cap rate.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Which is better, over 100% cap rate or 3.5% cap rate?
Of course, over 100% cap rate.
So yeah. I'm not sure that you would actually get that, but you might get in these typical kinds of things, you might get a 50 or 60% cap rate, because you got to remember we didn't take into account the fact you had to buy the thing, and there's all kinds of other stuff that you have to do. But typically these guys are making 50 or 60 points on their money. No bank is going to give, not in Canada, the United States is going to give you 50 or 60%, right? You might get 2%. So
I guess just for me to understand, so for instance, it's already zoned for that use. Right. So you wouldn't be going through that process of rezoning anything. And you wouldn't necessarily even have to sever anything, because if you own that entire 48, 44 or 42 acre lot, you could just create little pockets.
Correct. That is
you
correct.
Could build the plaza in one corner. Yep. You could have the trailer parking lot in one area.
Yep.
And even if that trailer parking lot is being used, because that's where they store their RVs, right? So even if it's being used and they're not paying every month, but I would imagine that there would be, if there's, especially in those communities, there would be almost a waiting list.
There's a little trick to the question that you asked. Do they pay every month, or is there vacancy? I'll answer that. I haven't answered that yet, but I will answer that. This is the zoning that Gary gave me a long time ago. And this is something that you and your brother are going to have to establish by visiting with the township. Okay?
Okay.
Because Gary is he's a crusty old guy, and you can see that that's his handwriting on the bottom of this. All right. So it allows a building supply center, contractor yards, industrial facility, tradesperson establishment, transportation depot, warehouse, wholesale establishment, vehicle sales or rental establishment. Then he added self-storage and warehouses. He added chip wagon, I guess, in a restaurant. He added containers, open space, which means parking lot and transfer station. It's very important to understand what the exact zoning is. And you're going to need a private planner to help you with that, because the township people will bullshit you. I'm sorry to say, they will tell you, oh, the only thing you can do there is, and they'll name one or two items, but that is not actually the zoning. You're going to need a private, a private planner to advise you. All right, you're going to have to find somebody that you like and trust who's a private planner, because you want to make sure that obviously the self.
Hello.
Hi,
Sorry about that.
how are you?
Good, good. I've been running around. We just moved
Yeah,
and I've been
I heard
back
you
to
were moving
back, and
into
I
a
didn't
new
see
new
this. I didn't
house.
even see the message come in. I'm not sure that I
Oh,
have
yeah,
my.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Oh,
Well, your sister
sorry
and
about
I
that.
have been having a good conversation. And by the way, we
Good.
are recording this. We're recording the first half hour so that you can, if you wanted to, you can go back and look at it.
Okay, very good.
All right. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep going. And
Yes, please.
you'll have no problem catching up. So Zaeira, this is something, this is the zoning that Gary gave me. It needs to be demonstrated to be true. It needs to include a parking lot. It obviously needs to include self-storage, warehouse. These are very important things. And it does include contractor's yard, and that's important too. Now, I'd like to answer your question about, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a minute so that your brother can see how handsome I am. Um, so, uh, so Zaire, the question you asked about RV parking, boat parking, a truck parking, equipment parking, you can't park your loader in your driveway in Smith Falls or Carleton Place or Ottawa. The bylaw officer will be there within a couple of days telling you to get it out of there, right? So you have to park it somewhere. It is a very, very, very profitable use. And one of my clients in this space, what he has done is really remarkable. On each parking space, he puts a metal post with which is anchored in a piece of concrete. It's movable. You can move it around. And he has a sign reserved for Zaeira Yakova or Dastaan Noor.
Okay.
And what he does is he says, I am selling you, this is your parking space. You can park your boat here. You can park your snowmobiles here. You can park your RV here. You can park your old truck here. You can park whatever you want. But this is your space, and it's yours for the year. This is a very simple thing to do. But before he did this, his name is Peter. Before Peter did this, people would say, I only need it for 6 months. I need to store my RV over the winter, and then I'm going to come get it. And I'm going to go off to Arizona. Or maybe they're parking it there in the summer and they're going to Arizona in the winter. I don't know. So he turned what used to be a 6-month rental into a year-round rental by buying himself a $125 sign that he sticks at the end of it and saying, this is Bruce's parking spot. This is Zaeira's parking spot. This is Dastan's parking spot. It was a brilliant innovation. And then people understood, well, that's my parking spot for the year.
Wow, that's actually a good idea.
That,
I couldn't believe it. So Zaeira, you like new things, and I'm sure your brother's no different. One simple innovation doubled the profitability of his parking lot.
So you answered my question. That's brilliant. And I always think about the client experience, because I feel like that's the way to capitalize on these little things. You just change the client experience a little bit. Okay, good.
So I'm going to go back now just to, if I can find it, not that. I'm going to go back to this drawing for your brother, for Dastan. So Dastan, this is the 42 acres of land that Mary and Gary Greer own, and I've been advising them for, at least 10 years. And they've got, as you know, sea cans up and down this road here, but they have 35 acres that is empty. And I wanted to show you something that is really, really popular now, and it's going really well. And that is, you may be familiar with it already. A lot of the mini storage companies are not necessarily just adding mini storage anymore. They're adding contractor yards. Dasta, do you know what a contractor yard is?
I'm not sure. I have a yard here. I'm a contractor slash I have a heavy equipment dealership yard.
Exactly. So it turns out that a lot of contractors need a yard. They could be as small as 40 feet by 100 feet, so 4,000 square feet. You can put a lot of trucks and inventory and sea containers in that, and some of them are much bigger. Um, this is a company called Long Yards. I've been coaching this guy. You'll see him on the next slide. His name is Chris Long with his youngest daughter. Actually, that's his oldest daughter, Lily. I've been coaching Chris for about 10 or 11 years. And Chris Long bought about 10 acres of industrial land on Bank Street in Ottawa, and he developed that into about 100 small contract yards, which are virtually full. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so the nice thing about this, Zaeira, is that you're not you don't other than having other than putting gravel down and some fencing up, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is Chris and Lily, and this facility was opened in 2019. Chris has been so successful, Dastan, with this. He now lives in a big house in Florida. He has Long Yards locations. His last name is Long, so we called it Long Yards. He's got Long Yards locations in Ottawa, obviously, but also in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina,
Wow.
Texas, and he's doing really well.
Very smart. Yeah, definitely. I
So
would definitely be implementing this
I
if
know
this
you
goes
will.
ahead.
Let me just continue. I'm sorry. I'm a former university professor. I could talk for 3 hours. Uh,
Wow,
I
very nice.
taught
Which university?
Zaire. I taught architecture at Carleton University for 14 years, and I also taught
Nice.
entrepreneurship at the University of Ottawa. But
What did you, sorry, sir, what did you teach?
I
Entrepreneurship?
taught entrepreneurship at the University of Ottawa at the Telfer School of Management, and I taught architecture at Carleton.
Wow, nice, nice. That's nice
So
to
anyway,
meet you. We're gonna have a lot to talk about.
well,
We've been talking since we got on the call.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
very exciting.
I really like your sister. I think she's a fabulous person. So I wanted to show you what this place looked like. It had been days on market. I think it had been for sale for over 300 days. And this was the house that was on the site. You'll see this is what it looked like. And
Yeah.
it was on Bank Street. People went by it, every day for a year. Nobody put it in an offer. And this is what it looked like. I mean, it looked horrible. And, speaking for myself, Dastan, I like to buy properties that nobody else wants, right?
Wow.
And so this was for sale by a couple of guys I knew. They were Syrians, and it was in the middle of their civil war. It was a very difficult war, as you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they had to sell it because they had to get some of their relatives out of Syria. They needed some money. So I went to Chris Long. He was very young. You could see in his picture. I don't know if he was yet 30, Zaeira. So I went to see Chris. I said, Chris, you're buying this. And I took him, and he said, what are you talking about? This thing is horrible. It's a mess. But we've got a business model that makes sense. So this is Chris is a contractor like you, Dastan. This is what the house looked like, and this is what it looks like today.
Wow. No, it's beautiful.
So
Transformation.
he has a commercial office in the garage where he runs his business. He has a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment up here, which is leased
Mm.
to a car company, and he has a 2 bedroom apartment in the basement, which is leased to somebody else. Then here's Chris in the garage. It wasn't quite finished then. This is a picture I took of Chris in the garage, which became his office. This is just the garage, and you can see the changes he made to it.
Yes.
And then I asked Lily to hold up his business card when we did the grand opening. And she was a big part of that. It's a family thing. And then
You know,
start to see the
so
contractor.
this is the how many you said 100 feet by 200 feet you said, or that's too
So,
big,
so,
50 big.
so different sizes, Dastan. Some of these, none of them, I think they're all at least 40 feet wide, if not 45 feet wide, and you need 20 or 22-foot gates. If you have smaller gates, you're going to get destroyed.
Yes.
Okay, so the typical one is 40 or 45 feet wide by 50 or 100 feet deep. So they're not very big. And this was, so it's called Long Yards, and this is Bank Street up here. We put a road down the middle, and you can see that there's some bigger yards down here, there's some smaller yards along here, and then there's different sizes over here. All right?
Yes, very neat.
Very cool. Now, I coach people in the United States too. This was the guy, his name's Kyle, who was the very first, at least from what I can tell, the very first person to do contractor yards. So this is his, if you want to look at it, Zaeira, maybe you could take a note of his URL. It's contractoryards.com.
Yeah.
And you can look at it with your brother afterwards. He is the grandfather of this business. And I've been coaching him for quite a while, but I wish Dastan I could claim that this was my idea. It is not. It's his idea, right? And he gave
So
me
you know a lot about it, that's for sure.
So this is an aerial photograph of his very first contractor yards. It looks like kind of a racetrack.
Hmm.
That all of the contractor yards are on both sides of this road. All
It's
right.
like a mini industrial park.
It is a fantastic idea. Now, because Arizona is so dusty, he had to pave everything, right? So
Yes.
in Ottawa and Smith Falls,
Yeah.
in Ontario, you'll gravel everything. Don't pave it. But in Arizona, they don't allow that because it would just, you'd have a dust storm. Okay.
It's too hot.
Yeah, that's it. This the I was always thinking about having an industrial two acre lots
Oh
and
my
rent
God.
them out.
It's a fantastic business.
Yeah, very. It
And,
creates traffic.
and Zaire, if I were going back to that time that I told you just at the time of the Ottawa Senators, this is what I would have done instead. I would have made more money. Um, and I just wanted to share this with you guys. Kyle tells me that he has a 4-hour workday. I don't know about you guys, but I'm working more than 4 hours. I bet you, Zaire, I know you are working more than 4 hours.
Yeah.
Once you set it, I mean, when you're setting it up, Dastan, you'll be working 12 hours a day, no doubt
Yep.
about it, 7 days a week. But once it's set up, it's all done electronically. They pay electronically, they sign their lease electronically. He basically has a little man cave on each of his sites, and he works 4-hour work days, and he doesn't really have to do much.
Yeah, it's very manageable for sure, not a doubt.
Yeah.
But if you want to manage multiple businesses, then you need
Yeah.
30 hours a day.
I have to tell you something about Kyle, though. He's got three or four of these yards, and he makes so much money. He said, Bruce, that's it. I'm not expanding anymore. He's in his 60s. I'm making more money than I ever made my whole life. I work less than ever. I'm cool.
Hmm.
So he's not going to expand anymore. Now, there's a couple other things that go with this model today. The model, like Zaire, you said you like to learn new things. The model is changing. Ontario changed its building code to allow small workshops or sheds up to 15 square meters without a building permit. So a lot of the people in this industry now, certainly in Ontario, are adding small workshops to their contractor yard. So you'd have a contractor yard, Dastan, and inside would be one of these small workshops. You don't even need a building permit for it.
Wow, like a small shed.
Well, you can see what they look like. By the way,
It's very nice.
I own a
That's
site
more
very
than enough.
I own a site very similar to this, and I have right now I have 8 workshops like this on one of my sites.
Hmm.
And they can be used for anything, carpentry, a little retail shop, some office space, massage therapy, physiotherapy, pet grooming. I mean, there's just any number of things. Now, Zaeira, the next slide, you asked me if there could be any residential as part of this industrial park. The answer is no. It's industrial. The zoning
Yeah.
doesn't allow it. However, okay, so this is unofficial, all right? A lot of my clients who have industrial parks inside their compounds, I'm not saying you should do it, I'm just telling you what people do. You got to remember there's some screening. You saw the screening, Dastaan, around each of the yards, so you can't see inside.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's legal, but a lot of people are moving tiny homes into their yards. So they have sea cans there and they have, trucks there and buses there and loaders and dozers and dump trucks and whatever else. And they might have one of these in there as well.
Okay.
But it's not a legal use. So, what I say to people like yourself, Dastan, is if somebody does that, they're simply parking it there. They're not living in it.
It's not, they're not allowed, it's not residential. It's like office use, day use, but people might stay a night or two in it.
100% they do. I know that. And you got to remember, Zaeira, I've got at least 20 people that I coach in the States and in Canada doing this across the States. And almost all of them have found it's impossible to stop it. They sneak in their tiny homes, they put it there. And yeah. And the rich dudes who own all the equipment don't live there, but their foreman would live there or one of their workers would live there. But it's not a legal use, so I can't coach anybody to do it. I just know it happens.
That's fair.
All right. So now what I should show you next, Dastan, you may not like this, but I'm going to show you, a spreadsheet that I did. And I'm going to share this with you, Zaeira, afterwards. Zaeira's the realtor here, and I can't really send you stuff to Aston. I'm not really supposed to. I have to send it to your sister.
Okay.
But I'm going to share with you a spreadsheet, and this is something I've been working on with Mary Greer and Gary Greer for some time. And my numbers might not be exactly right, Zaeira, but they're in the right ballpark. They have about 130 containers now or units.
Okay.
They get just over $100 per container. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, rented, yeah.
They're virtually full. They only have one vacancy because it's one of the units that they reserve for themselves.
Okay.
So they're making about just over $13,000 in gross income a year, about $161,000 in GOI stands for gross operating income. And then there's that 34% that I talked about earlier for OPEX, okay?
Sorry, what was that for?
Operating expenses.
Okay.
And that includes things like insurance, repairs, maintenance, vacancy allowance, property management, everything, utilities, everything except mortgage. This has nothing to do with your mortgage.
Okay.
Just operating expenses. Now, 34%, most of the guys that I work with, men and women I work with in this industry, their OPEX is closer to 24%. But I put in 34% because of this, just to be conservative. So you've got about $54,000 or $55,000 of expenses. That includes marketing and everything else, giving you an NOI, which stands for net operating income, of about $106,000. The market cap rate is about 6.5%. That's what I would sell it for. So I came out with a value of the storage business, the Prolog storage business, of about 1.6 million. Now I know, Dastan, you have your own. You're with Zaeira, you have your own numbers in mind. I can't give you any advice on what you should do or what you should offer. But I will say this, that Mary asked me to make sure I reach out to you. It is not on MLS. It's not going on MLS. If you want it, you can make an offer. We'll deal with it. If you don't want it, that's fine. But if I put it on MLS, I will put it on at 1.65 million. The way what I was saying to Zaeira before you joined the call, Dastaan, the way to pay for this is, if I were doing an offer for a client of mine, is I would ask for some vendor financing. You know what vendor financing is, I'm sure.
Vendor take back, is it?
A vendor take back, exactly. So typically on, again, I can't give you any advice, but I can say to Zaeira, typically you can get 65% loan to value for something like this. Then you would probably ask the seller for a 20% vendor take back mortgage, sometimes called seller take back mortgage, which would get you to 85% loan to value. And then you'd have to find 15% of the purchase price to close the transaction. And then
Okay.
to pay off your mortgage, because you have over 40 acres here and you don't need it, I would probably sever off and sell some pieces to pay down the debt. That's typically what you would consider doing.
And also to just let Dastaan know that we went through that map of the different uses, like the plaza, the trailer park, lot, just for parking, not trailer park, but the plaza and all the different uses that are a possibility without severing anything and without having to sell anything off, just to generate income.
Yeah.
To use the real estate to generate income instead of just having it sit there. But this is a question I had, Bruce, about just the grading and the topography. Like, I don't know if, because from what my brothers explained, and we looked at that map on Geo Warehouse and I had all that pulled up. I just wasn't sure if some of the parts that are green around the secans are we able to put a parking lot on that? Like, has there been any grading plans done?
So you will need to have a professional grading plan done, and you will also need a stormwater pond. You will need a site plan application. I've done site plan applications in the city of Ottawa. They're extremely expensive and they take a long time. In smaller towns, I'm doing one. I have a mini storage client, by the way, in Smith Falls, not far from the site. And
you have one?
I do. And Mary
Which
Greer,
one?
well, I can't disclose that. But Mary Greer asked me, Dastaan, to talk to you and your sister before talking to anybody else, and I gave her that commitment, and I give you that commitment. And so if this is not of any interest to you, don't worry about it. But the next call I'm going to make is this is a Toronto-based company that's been buying in the area, and they might consider buying this. But they will not know anything about it because I gave Mary my word that it would be exclusive to you until you say no or a deal isn't reached, and then I will put it on MLS and I will talk to other clients. But the people in Smith Falls who are in the mini storage business, I think I know all of them, and I have one that's an active client of mine there. Again, as I said, Toronto-based, have been pretty successful, and they like the business, and it's expanding. So, and to have that extra land, Zaeira, of whatever it is, 42 acres, is tremendously exciting. To answer your question, you will need a site plan agreement, you will need a grading plan, you will need a lighting plan. There's a few other things. In Ottawa, you would need probably 12 to 15 studies. It would probably take you 2 years. It would probably cost you $150,000, if not more. In a place like Montague Township, where we've already done one, it was a $35,000 to $40,000 investment as opposed to $150,000, and it took maybe 3 or 4 months as opposed to 2 or 3 years. So I do like the smaller townships for this. And Smith Falls has become a suburb of Carleton Place and of Ottawa. From Canadian Tire Center to Smith Falls is 25 or 30 minutes. It's not very far. There's lots of people who will travel that distance. And just this, I guess it was last week, I had a group interested in putting in, a food truck, and those are the kinds of things that add a lot to add animation to your site. Anyway,
So, Bruce, I had
plans. I
we
mean,
will talk.
course,
We had
they're bringing in income. You can put more sea cans there as well to grow that aspect of it. But then in terms of the grading plan, like I know with Patterson, they'll do it in like 3 to 4 weeks, depending on when they're available. They can do a grading plan pretty fast at Patterson because we had looked at it, but it was a small residential lot.
right. So what you're going to need to do, and we're running out of time because I've got another call coming up in a few minutes. I apologize, but it's been so much fun talking to you. I really have enjoyed it. But what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to do what's called a pre-consultation with Montague Township. You're going to talk zoning, you're going to talk access, you're going to talk site plan, and they're going to bring all kinds of people in, and they're going to give you a whole list of things you need to do. I think they do it for free or it costs you $500. But the first thing you have to do is you have to decide whether you want to make an offer. If you make an offer, Zaeira, you would make an offer that would be conditional, typically on financing. It would be typical to make it conditional on a pre-consultation with the city. So that the pre-consultation with the city covers everything, site plan, zoning, grading plan, all of that good stuff. So the typical things are financing, pre-consultation with the city, environmental phase one. There's probably not a whole lot else you need. If you have three conditions like that, if you didn't like what you heard from the township, or the financing fell apart, or the phase one was unacceptable, you know what a phase one is, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So if the phase one wasn't there, you can walk, so you can get out of the deal, all right? But the
So,
first
Bruce,
thing to do, in my opinion, would be to think about whether you want to make an offer. Make an offer with those conditions. And typically in commercial, Zaire, the conditions are 3 to 5 weeks rather than 1 or 2 weeks because it takes you longer.
Yes.
All right. So if you put
that was going to be my question is from your experience with the township there, would that be a realistic amount of time to book the pre-consultation? Okay, perfect.
You need 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
If you put in 2 weeks, you'll run out of time for sure.
That's right. Yeah.
But the three main conditions, if I were doing, oh my God, this guy has called me now 14 times in this call. Like, where's your first clue, Sherlock? I'm gonna I'll toss the phone. I mean, the guy's been calling me every 10 minutes while we've been talking.
That's a lot.
Like, what the hell?
So, Bruce, quickly, I know you have to go. I have to just quickly say this. There's two things I just want to say.
Zaeira. I mean, if I called you, I would call you once, and then you'd call me back.
Yeah.
Correct. That's how it works.
I'm going to tell you how many times he's called me in the last hour and a bit. 7.
What does he want?
We're doing a deal, but he can wait.
Yeah.
So quickly, what I want to say is two things. First is what I was thinking is after acquiring, if we are first would be that I've been speaking with Mary and Gary on this for 3 years. I actually purchased this place I'm sitting in right now from them.
Yeah, I know.
And I developed it. I'm not sure you've probably seen it. I developed it. I have the heavy machine. You seen the area? Okay, and it's going now. We're doing more work, so that would work together with this one because what I was thinking is right behind the containers, from the Sturgis Road going north, it's about 400 meters behind the containers. I want to build a driving range golf course right off the back, just to preserve the land for now. Utilize it right away. It's very simple. I have my own dozers. I'm gonna put up a tent and just drive range for now, and then focus on the other side.
That's something that you should discuss with the township because when this goes up on YouTube unlisted, and I'll make sure that Zaire, you have the link and you can share it with your brother. We do know what the zoning is. I don't know if a golf driving range is included in that. It might be, but that would go into your pre-consultation condition.
Oh yes, I was going to ask them that.
So
I'm going to ask them that.
And as I said to Zaira, if you do go ahead and you close this transaction, if you wanted any coaching from me, I know more about this business, the mini storage business, the contractor yards business, than probably anybody else in the world. And I'd be happy
Wow.
to help, but I love your sister and I like you.
Thank you. I
So there you
appreciate that.
go. No,
So
I'm
for the
really
one
happy.
last thing is the price.
What's that?
After speaking, we spoke with Mary, we spoke on an agreement. No, we've been talking about it. So we've been talking about the price, and there's a kind of an agreement or where we stand.
Well,
So
she said that.
Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
about that.
she said, I'm going to address this to Zaeira. She said that she would be happy with 1.4 million, and I said to Mary, because Zaeira, as part of my job is to protect my clients. I said, with all due respect, Mary, I can get you 1.6 million for this, almost certainly. So listen, Dastaan, you have to talk to your sister. She's your realtor. I can't give you any advice, but Zaeira, I am very confident I get 1.6 million for Mary. But you put in an offer, whatever your offer is, I will take it to Mary and Gary. I will do my best to sell it. But that is what I have told her. Okay, so I just want to be open book with you guys.
okay.
It's never been on the market for sale before to the public market, right?
I don't recall. I don't recall. I think one other thing that I would say to you is that, in my opinion, you can drive this Long Yards, which was 10 acres, not 40 acres. Long Yards was appraised at 4.5 million. I helped him, Chris, I helped him buy that site for about 400. I think it was $675,000. He put about 1.2 million into it, so he was at just under 2 million. Within 3 years, it was appraised at 4.5 million. So he's done very well. And then he moved to Florida, and now he's got a bunch more. So
Okay.
Dastaan, if you know what you're doing, and your sister certainly does know what she's doing, this is the kind of thing that can really help you build intergenerational wealth. And this would only be the first one. I'm sure you're both young people. You can do a ton more of these. And I have other sites that are suitable for this kind of thing. If you are successful with this, as long as I'm
We can
around,
expand.
I am 73, so who knows? But as long as I'm around, you can always come back to me. Okay?
Okay.
All right, I gotta go.
Thank you so much.
I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
this.
Time.
I really enjoyed
Thank
it. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
So we will be getting back to you, okay?
I look forward to it.